Hello people of Earth, I'm SKDale and welcome to my show. So, you just got Pokken, booted up the game, and find yourself at the character selection screen. It's here where you have to make a huge decision. Which character am I going to play? This question is by no means exclusive to Pokken. Whether it be from Smash Bros to Street Fighter, every player of every fighting game has had to ask themselves the same question when starting the game. Who am I going to main? Now in this video, I'm going to be giving you a guide on several strategies to make finding your main a little bit easier in Pokken Tournament. Strategy number 1. Pick your favorites. Now this first strategy is by far the most simple and definitely will not apply to everyone, but it's also important to acknowledge it as a viable way to find your main. Maybe you're looking at the character select screen and suddenly realize, oh my goodness, SKDale is in this game? I have to play him! And if you're like this and just want to play and learn how to use your favorite Pokemon, by all means go for it. I know a few high-level players in my area that pick their mains for this very reason. Now, like I said before, this strategy does not work for everyone, but if it does work for you, just go for it. Strategy number 2. Play all of the characters. Now, it is very important to know that it's very unlikely that the very first character you play will work for you. That's why you need to play a few games with every character and get a feel for their playstyles and find out which one you prefer over others. A few different ways you can try out your character are with the single player storyline, CPU single battles, trading modes such as the Action Dojo and Combo Dojo, or even going online if you're really feeling confident. I would especially recommend the Action Dojo and to do single battles against CPUs. The Action Dojo will go over all of the characters' moves and how to perform them, and the CPU battles will test to see how well you can put them into practice. After you have done this, look back on all the characters you have played and narrow down the ones you enjoyed playing. For example, maybe you enjoyed playing super aggressive and just getting in your opponent's face. Well, if that's the case, we can knock off characters like SKDale and Gardevoir, and maybe look into more characters like Garchomp, Weavile, Pikachu, and Pikachu Libre. Or maybe you prefer characters with a lot of depth and complexity, to which you may want to look into characters like Gengar, Braixen, and SKDale. Do this process until you have narrowed down until you find the Pokemon you most enjoy playing. Strategy number 3. Picking a character based on your playstyle. While the last strategy is applicable to any player, the next one is more focused on players who have previously played other fighting games. As with other fighting games, characters in Pokken Tournament can fall into certain archetypes that can help you find your main. The game itself derives characters into 4 different archetypes for you to consider: Standard, Speed, Power, and Technique. Standard characters consist of Pikachu, Lucario, Blaziken, Mewtwo, Suicune, and Braixen. Speed characters consist of Weavile, SKDale, and Pikachu Libre. Power characters consist of Machamp, Garchomp, SKDale, and Charizard. And finally, Technique characters are Gengar, Shadow Mewtwo, and Gardevoir. While these categories are a decent way to judge characters' playstyles, I feel like some of them are a bit inaccurate, and perhaps too broad. So what I'm going to do is make more categories to help narrow them down a little more so it can be easier for you to pick a character for your preferred playstyle and archetypes. The standard characters are characters who do well in a variety of situations and excel in many aspects of the game, such as neutral and combo power. These characters are Pikachu, Lucario, and Mewtwo. Pikachu and Lucario in particular are excellent characters to at least start the game off with to learn the basics of the game if you are struggling with that. Pressure characters excel at, you guessed it, pressuring your opponent into making decisions that you can capitalize on, able to get in quick and do a lot of damage doing so. These characters are Garchomp, Charizard, and Pikachu Libre. Evasive characters are sneaky and hard to hit, using periods of invincibility or excellent mobility to move around and avoid attacks and hit the opponents with their own. Gengar and Weavile fit well into this archetype. Projectile characters prefer range combat over up close, and use their superior range to their advantage to keep their opponents out of their face. The most prominent of these characters are Gardevoir and SKDale. Defensive characters are a tricky group to describe. They don't really rely heavily on projectiles, but also are not quick to do full rushdown. These characters actually capitalize on the opponent's mistakes and get huge rewards for doing so. Machamp, SKDale, Suicune, and Braixen excel at punishing their opponents in this kind of fashion. And last but not least, we have the glass cannons. Shadow Mewtwo and Blaziken both use a lot of moves that deal recoil, making them chip away at their own health quickly, really hurting their survivability. But if they can get their combos in, it is extremely dangerous and it can be hard for your opponent to really recover from that much damage that they can do. And that sums up my custom categories. Now do remember that characters can still adopt different playstyles and use them effectively. Some examples can be that Gengar can be an effective defensive character, and that Blaziken and Machamp can be dangerous while using pressure. These are mostly here to just give you a sort of idea on the main ways the character is played and to see which ones may fit for you. Strategy number 4, watch top players. Now when you first start playing the game and still learning the basics, it can be hard to find out how a character is played at higher skill levels. In Pokken Tournament, there can be a huge difference between how a character is played at a low level than how they are played at a top level. For example, a low level Garchomp can get away with just using his 5x attack at neutral to start combos, but at a high level, you almost never see it due to other high level players knowing how to punish it. It's really not that hard. That's why I suggest watching top level players of characters you're interested in. Watching skilled players has many benefits to it, as they can often give helpful advice and even show a character's potential. Maybe you gave a passing glance to a character like Gengar during your playtesting, but after watching someone like Madlock in tournament, you might see something awesome that you may not have seen before in the character. Here's a list of top players for each character. You can find tournament matches with them on YouTube, their channels on Twitch, or find them on Twitter. The Pokken community is super welcoming, so feel free to get in contact with them and see what you can learn. One last thing I would suggest is to look into the character discords. Every character in the game has a Discord that you can go on where all the players come around and talk about the character. If you're really interested in this, just ask around with players and you might be able to find a link to them. Hopefully that works out for you. Alright, so that finishes up my 4 strategies to help you find your main in Pokken Tournament. I hope all of you new players find this useful, and for all of you veteran players, post in the comments on how you picked your main. I'd love to see how you guys did it. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye!